Charlamagne returned the favor and went on Laura Trump's platform on Fox News because Laura Trump actually went on the Breakfast Club during the election campaign. And so he returned the favor and he had a conversation about Laura Trump, about the current job that Trump is doing, which it also includes lower taxes if he's delivered during the time that he's been in office so far, and if he's actually deporting the right people, including the illegal migrants that may not necessarily be committing crimes after they committed the crime of coming over here across the border illegally. So I thought this would be an interesting conversation. Make sure y'all hit a like for the algorithm, subscribe to the channel, and turn on your notifications.
All right, well, Charlamagne, I'm so honored to have you here. Thanks for coming on My View.
Laura, thank you for having me. You did Breakfast Club. I had to return the favor.
Yeah, we're trying to reciprocate. I appreciate that very much. So look, we're 6 months into President Trump's second term in office. Now, I know you've been critical. You've had your bones to pick with President Trump. If you took his name out of it and looked solely at what has happened, the policies and the things that have changed around the world and in our country over the first 6 months, how do you rate his presidency so far?
I wouldn't give it a good rating,
Why not?
Simply because, the least of us are still being impacted the worst. Like when you look at something like, the big, beautiful bill, that's something that, I'm going to benefit from because of the tax bracket that I'm in. But, there's going to be so many people that's hurt by that bill. And, anything that, takes away Medicaid from people and is going to put people in a worse financial situation than, they were previously in, I'm not for. And, he ran on that. Like, he ran on, the economy. He ran on saying that, grocery prices were going to be down. And,
That has happened.
No.
Inflation is trending down. And by the way, Medicaid, we want to make sure that people who are not.
Charlamagne says no. No. Well, it's a way for us to be able to find this out and figure it out. All right. So I'm going to go ahead and do a little bit of research right now. Because this is the reason. It's funny because they say I wouldn't be able to stand in front of this guy. He doesn't even know that inflation is much different than when Biden was in office. He has no clue that inflation is much different than when Biden was in office. Okay, well then let's talk about it. Inflation is around 2% today. As of June, they haven't actually released the data for July yet. But it's around 2.5% to 2.7% inflation. All right. That's not my opinion. As of July 2015, July 15, 2025, inflation was at 2.7%. The final accounting on Biden inflation, according to Yahoo Finance. Inflation turned out to be the surprise villain of Joe Biden's 4-year presidency. It arrived with little warning in 2021, hit a 40-year high in 2022, and undoubtedly contributed to Vice President Kamala Harris's loss in 2024. A lot of people don't realize that inflation was was little lower than 2% when Trump left office. Inflation was at a little lower than 2%. That's what Trump handed Biden. It hit a 40-year high in 2022. Overall inflation was 21.2% during the 4 years Biden was in office. Earnings rose by 19.4%. So the typical family did in fact fall behind during Biden's presidency. Conversely, during Trump's 4 years prior to that, over the entire lifespan, inflation only rose by 7.9%. meaning that it averaged around a little less than 2% for the entire time that Trump was in office the first time. And now, hold on, let me see something. In 2022, the peak of Biden's presidency, the U.S. experienced a significant surge of inflation, reaching levels not seen in 4 decades. The Consumer Price Index peaked at 9.1% increase in June 2022, the largest 12-month increase since 1981. That is a fact. This is not our opinion. This is 100% a fact. All right? This is unfortunate. CPI report for March 2022, inflation had hit 8.5% in the United States, the fastest 12-month pace since 1981, a surge in gasoline prices, so on and so forth, blah, 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 blah. So when you see Charlamagne say stuff like, well, no, that's not true. A simple Google search will actually be your friend. All right? So for a lot of people that sit here and think that this guy is the mouthpiece for the black community and or truly understand politics, Charlamagne waits on talking points from people in the Democrat Party so that he'll be able to have a conversation, hopefully. But it's no way he can actually. Do y'all remember when Laura Trump went on the Breakfast Club and she absolutely demolished the Breakfast Club?
Inflation is trending down. And by the way, Medicaid, we want to make sure that people who are not actual recipients or shouldn't be getting Medicaid are off of Medicaid so it can actually benefit more people. There is good stuff in that bill, though. You have the 2017 tax cuts that are made permanent, and that really is for everybody. For who, but that's for everyone. Everyone in this country is impacted by that. You also have things, by the way, like money going to school choice for parents all across this country. Mm-hmm. There is a lot of good that I think will come out of the big, beautiful bill. But what about things like...
Right now, people are hurting. And he campaigned on immediate change, day one change.
And you don't think you've felt any change? People aren't feeling change.
No.
Do you feel safer knowing that Iran will not have the ability to develop a nuclear weapon?
Iran?
Yeah.
Sure. I feel safe if you're telling me that a country won't have the ability to build a nuclear weapon.
Do you feel better knowing our borders closed?
Yes.
Okay, so there
don't get me wrong. There's certain things that I absolutely, understood. Like, as far as, border security. But I understood border security for different reasons. Like, people were complaining about the border because they felt like people were coming into, the country and, taking jobs away from people in certain areas and certain communities. And that is the conversation that I had been hearing, for the past year and a half prior to the election. I understand that, but I want to see the criminals and illegal immigrants, actually deported.
That's happening.
Not people who are here, trying to go through the process of.
You do realize that the people that Trump is deporting are illegal immigrants, right? He wants to see criminals and illegal immigrants deported. Word out of his own mouth.
And that, but for the past year and a half prior to the election, I understand that, but I want to see the criminals and illegal immigrants, actually deported.
Are liberals and Democrats actually listening to the words that come out of their mouth before they jump on these platforms? Like, do they not know that when you actually get on a platform like this, that you're saying the exact thing that the Trump administration is doing? Like, word for word, you're describing the success of the Trump administration by saying this is what you want. That is exactly what is happening. Do they listen to what's coming out of their mouth? Honest to God.
That's happening.
Not people who are here, trying to go through the process of being in this country legally. Like when you see people actually getting deported and getting detained, and they're actually trying to go through the process of being American citizens, that's not right.
Well, we're allowing those people to leave. They actually get money to leave, and then they get to reapply to come back here the right way. So,
but leave and go where?
They go back to their home country, and then they
What if they've never even been to that country?
Well, they have been to that country. That's where they came here from. But let me ask you this. Hold on.
Some of them haven't, though. A lot of them haven't.
I don't know.
I've seen a lot of cases of people getting deported.
Well, some went to El Salvador who are from Venezuela, but those people have now been sent back to Venezuela. Let me ask you about how the Democrats have responded, though, in the first 6 months of this presidency. How do you rate their response? Because it feels like to a lot of people watching, they don't really have an alternative. And it's a lot of, we hate this because Donald Trump is trying to do it. What do you think of how they've reacted?
When you look at Democrats' approval rating in this country, when you look at Republicans' approval rating in this country, you see that Americans are just fed up with it all. Like, Democrats suck. We know that already, though. You know what I mean? So it's like, I knew that Trump would probably get in office again and fumble, but I also knew that Democrats wouldn't have the team put together properly to recover the ball. So what you're seeing right now from just American people is just a backlash to everything. People want something different.
Well,
This is nothing different than what we experienced during the election. When you ask specifically about what do you think about the job that Democrats are doing, who is it that you actually think is doing a good job during Trump's first 6, 7, 8 months inside of office? You know what? I was trying to figure out who would sit there and talk about Trump. It's Trump. Democrats have Trump derangement syndrome. Democrats have Trump derangement syndrome. They can't even stand on their own. They have no policies. They have no solutions. Their cities are crumbling. They can't balance their budget. The people hate them. They also focus on diversity, equity, and inclusion and keeping you distracted. And then whenever you ask them a question is, I don't like Trump. It is Trump derangement syndrome.
I was on your show back in, I think it was October of last year. You told me that you would have been happy to have voted for Kamala Harris as the nominee for the Democrat Party. I want to ask you, do you still feel that way? Do you think she was the best representative and the best person for the Democrats in their chance to have a president this term?
Yes, I would have voted for, I did vote for Vice President Kamala Harris, but absolutely. Because, if you look right now, she's looking pretty good because a lot of the things that she said, President Trump would do, he actually did. And, I did a segment on The Daily Show, after he became president. I was like, prove people wrong. Everything that everybody is saying about you, everything that they say you're going to do, all you got to do is simply not do.
And you think that he would be able to stand in front of me? You believe in your heart and your soul and your heart of hearts that this guy would be able to stand a chance in front of me.
But he did it anyway.
Well, let me ask you.
Not like he was listening to me. I'm just simply saying.
He listens to everyone. He takes input from all around. So Kamala Harris, listen to this. She now says that she is not going to seek becoming governor of California. Here's her statement. She says, for now, my leadership and public service will not be in elected office. I look forward to getting back out and listening to the American people, helping elect Democrats across the nation who will fight fearlessly and sharing more details in the months ahead about my own plan. Charlamagne, if you look at what Democrat primary voters think about some of the candidates, look at where Kamala Harris falls. She's number 2 right here behind Pete Buttigieg. Do you think she should run for president again?
She can do whatever she wants. I don't personally know if I would run for president if I was her. And if she does, she has to get a real connection with the people. I think that's something that she's always been missing. If you look at from 2020 to now, whenever you see her, it always seems like it's transactional, right? Like she ran for president, so she was trying to get, people's attention for that. Then she became vice president. Then she became the actual nominee. People have never seen the VP just out having a conversation, doing what she says she wants to do right there, which is just being of service to the people in that way. And I think she just needs to establish a real connection with the people. I think any of those candidates that are attempting to run need to establish a real connection with the people. And I think that you do it by doing things like this. Like, you have to show up.
All right. That's nice. All right. So now that you guys got a little better view of of what you think makes sense and how he would 100% be head and shoulders above and all of this stuff. Ladies and gentlemen, Charlamagne the God. All right. This reminds me of why Trump won in the first place. This rhetoric is one of the reasons why I will always remember Trump to be a victor during this time, because I remember why I made so much money during the election. And I also remember why it was so easy to convince people why the Democrat Party was against them, because of people like this. That was a representation of it. You had Al Sharpton, you had Ricky Smiley, you had Meg Thee Stallion, you had Charlamagne the God, you had not Umar Johnson. You had several different people with huge platforms. Steve Harvey, all of these guys, the who's who of the boule, they were all for and the mouthpiece for Kamala Harris. And it was so easy to predict that that was going to be a loss. I wish I would have had bet money on it. And I would have made a gajillion dollars as a result of it, Charlamagne. But he is doing well financially and in his business. Can't take that from him.